Today I'm going to compare these three dials for some very detailed information about them. And I'm going to get straight away to the microscope, but there are kind of three stages to this video. One is to look at these with the microscope and talk about why I'm interested in comparing them and what they might tell me. The other is trying to use my new staking tool to carefully punch out one of the dots out of this dial so that I can take a gold sample from the back of it and then put it back. And then the third thing is to use my gold testing kit to see what the gold content is in these dots. So that's three things: microscope, staking tool, gold test. And the reason I already know, I tested these dots and they are 9-karat gold, and I was curious if these could have their origin at Omega, circa 1981 or 82. And I found the Omega Constellation Manhattan dial. This dial was only 29 Swiss francs, so it doesn't really matter if I destroy it. But the reason I'm going to use the punch is just to try not to, just as like an exercise. So this dial, I wanted to know if these dots could have come from Omega in 1981 or 82. The dial is circa 1980s, but I want to show you a little bit more detail about that so you can understand how fascinating this is. But first of all, I was in the thrift store a couple days ago and I found this book, and I was like, I bet, before I even opened the book, I was like, I bet you this book has a picture of Nicholas Hayek in it, and I bet you he's wearing the Seamaster Polaris titanium. And the reason, well, if you're interested in the whole story behind this, then check out my other video about the mystery watch. I'll put a link to it in here. You can find it in my videos. That's the deeper story. But anyway, I picked up this book and I was like, I bet you this has a picture of Nicholas Hayek wearing the Seamaster Polaris. So I opened it up and I was right. Nicholas Hayek, Seamaster Polaris, and that's the one watch that you can see that he's wearing. He always wore like a few watches, so he's wearing something else over here. But in this picture with Cindy, he's wearing his Gerald Genta designed Seamaster Polaris. And this is from 1981. It came out in 1982. And then in that same book, we have Elmar Mock and some co-workers at his company at the time that the book was made, called Creaholic. And Elmar Mock is one of the engineers behind the design of the Swatch. Anyway, I like that. I was in Bienne just a couple of weeks ago, meeting with Omega and Swatch. So the other thing is the Omega Constellation Manhattan, this is important. It's patented, and the designer of it was Carol Didisheim, and her name is on the patent for it, and the patent was filed May 26, 1982, and that's about 2 weeks before this patent with Elmar Mock as the inventor and Alphonse Bron. This was filed June 11th, 1982. And this is the patent on the Swatch. So this is ETA. The only connection to this is that these are within a couple weeks of each other. This one is assigned to Omega, and this one is assigned to ETA. And these this is the dial that came with the watch that I have that matches this design. So my presumption was that the reason that the watch I have may have been covered and then these dots put in it where the dial markers are was because it was actually for the Omega Seamaster Cosmic, and they removed the indices for the Cosmic. Someone did. They removed those, painted the dial black, and then inserted these gold points. And then my theory was, if I looked at Omega's archives, I might find the same gold points. That's the point of this video. Let's see, I'm 12 minutes in, and it's crazy. I take so much time. But it's going to get longer. So let's get the microscope going. If I can summarize what the forensic evidence that I'm going to find before you think I'm completely insane. What's interesting about this is, I probably already think I'm completely insane. This is the original Seamaster Cosmic dial. And you can see here that the way that they treat these, when you put indices in these punches, the holes that are pre-cut in the dial, after you put the indice in, they would do two things. They would either drill individually or burnish it so that it's flat, or also just kind of hit the whole area. So you can see here they've hit all four areas with a burnishing tool or a grinder of some kind, and that's so that the dial is perfectly flat. And this dial is a new old stock, finished, ready for a watch, and that's the normal treatment for that. On this dial, which is taken out of a watch, again, I bought it out of a watch, but I can tell it was in a watch by some of the wear on it. So this dial, they've ground down each of the points where these indices came through individually. So you can see basically each one of those has been individually burnished down, again, so that the dial is perfectly flat. Now on this one, this is the kind of prototype dial, and on this one, kind of have to go in very close to see this, but basically these points have not been burnished. Well, let me say that differently. These points that are sticking through have themselves not been burnished, but there may have been some burnishing of whatever was in there before, because this could have looked like this originally, and then they removed and put these in there. So when I tested these for gold, there were 3 of them that I actually ended up taking a little bit of material off of. That's these 3. So they look as if they're burnished, but because they were sticking up, that was the way that I was able to get the gold off. So the other ones, this is pretty good. You can see the depth here. The pins are still sticking up, and they even have like a little, get a tweezer here. This one, you can see there's a little kind of nipple actually protruding from the tip of it. So that would give us an idea, if we had ones to compare it with, that would give us an idea of like origin, because it actually You can actually see the shape of it. And the other thing is, because these are not filed off, which is strange because it was put into a watch, it means they were put in, through some kind of non-industrial process. If the person was seriously finishing this dial for production, they would have burnished off the ends of that, but they didn't. So then those are cool clues to have. And then on this one, the problem is all of them have been burnished off, so we don't have the opportunity to look at the back of that pin and compare it with these. But like I said, these are 9-karat gold, and I want to remove one of these and test it to see if it's also 9-karat gold. So the way I'm going to attempt to do this first of all, I want to punch it through. So what I'm going to do is try to, put a punch in here that will just pop the gold point out, and it'll drop it into one of these holes. So it doesn't really matter how big, the hole just has to be bigger than the points. So any of these holes in this range are fine. And then I'm going to need a punch that's tiny enough to do that. So then I can put this in, center it on one of these holes, tighten it, and then have to pick a candidate. Tough decision. I'm going to go for 9 o'clock. So opposite the window, that's easy to see. Opposite the date window. I put the plastic there just to protect the dial a bit. 9 o'clock. Now, sorry about that. That's my New York telephone number, and it seems like all it gets is junk calls these days. Again, this dial only costs 29 francs. And this is just a test to see if I can do this without destroying it. Oh. Yeah, worked. Oh, I totally damaged the dial. Okay, so we do have the dot. And try not to lose that. And the damaged dial, because I just want to see how bad that is and what exactly happened. Oh yeah. So I punched, the punch is too big. It made a new punch in the dial. And the cap, this is actual, the dial material itself turning out here. So that means this dial is trashed, but that's okay. And then I have to try to use my gold kit here to actually get a sample of this. So let's see. So this dot, this dot has some lume on it. Somebody painted over it with lume. And also, I can see that it's different. It's different from the dot on the dial that I'm interested in. So we're still going to test what material it's made out of. But, so actually I can just make a smear right now. There's no reason to try to preserve this now because I can't restore it onto the dial. So I'm just going to, that time I think that is gone. I pressed down too hard and it's gone. So we're going to have to get another one of those. But the what was I saying? Oh, I should check that diameter too. I already checked the diameter of the dots and they're both 0.8 on the dial side. I should check this diameter. It's going to be hard to measure, but you can try that. But the thing I want to show you is these dots actually are different than the ones on that Manhattan dial. They have, the top is domed, but they have a straight edge down to the dial. And the Manhattan dots of this dial are basically domed with no flat edge. So these are slightly different. So this experiment is only going to tell me if this particular dial, which is not the perfect, that's not the source of those dots, but it is from around the same period. So we'll just see if they happen to use 9-karat gold for that. Wait, I think I do want to use the microscope here. I'm not so worried about using the cellophane now because the dial's already destroyed. I should practice though, trying to get this out. Actually yeah, I think that's the smallest punch I have. So I wouldn't be surprised if I don't need to hammer this. Now, because I don't have the cellophane, when you use a staking tool and something comes out, there's actually a hole in it, so it's trapped underneath here. So you can see it there. Now, there's two things I want to do. First of all, I need to wipe some contrasol on this stone. So this is like an oil. This helps, I believe the point of this is just to help the stone, help the acid pool on the stone. So we're gonna make a mark with the gold on this stone, and then we're gonna put a drop of a couple of different types of acid on it to figure out which gold content it has. And now I'm going to try to make a mark using this without losing it. That's annoying. Oh, you know what? Let's do this the easier way. The dial is trashed at this point, so I can just scrape it in the dial. Just want to make sure I get the dot and not something else. Is there a guarantee that that's the dot? Let's try to get 3 of these. That's a dot. Okay, so that's a very good mark for the gold. We'll get that over with, and then I'll try again to measure the diameter of the pin there. So the first thing I'm going to try is 14. I think this is 9 karat gold. So I'm going to try the acid for 14 karat first. And what this should do this acid should dissolve 9 karat gold because this is the 14 karat gold test. So we just put a drop on. You can already see that the line disappears in that acid. Now, the 9 karat the line should stay intact. This is actually, it's 8. So anything higher than 8 will survive this acid. And it seems like it's surviving it better anyway than the other one. But it also seems to be fading. Yeah, so that is not even, it's not even 8 carats. Now, that could mean that I just got like an edge sample. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by that result. So I'm going to try to get another one of these out. And make sure that I have the proper only the gold sample. So we're gonna pick a spot over here. That piece of gold is so small, actually. I could almost just put the acid on it directly, because what will happen is it'll just eat it. Because that could be not gold at all. It could be brass, gold-plated brass. Kind of looks like brass. Okay, so now we'll go back to the 8 karat gold acid test. Just check this again. This is the old one. Wait. That's the old test. This is the new test. Now you can see it's kind of surviving that. But that's also off the tip of the thing, so that could be like a plate. That could be gold plate. So if that's gold plate, then it's probably 24 karat. So this is the 14 karat, and let's see if the 14 karat, if it's 24 karat gold plate, it will also be okay with this 14 karat. but it's not. So it does seem like that's 9 carat. And what I have over here might be a streak that's actually just the dial. It's not gold at all, or some mixture. So I think I need another dot, because I think I've lost that dot again. And this one, I don't know why I think that's so funny. Okay, so I'm going to try this again. This is the 9 carat, 8 carat, but if the gold is 9, it will be okay. And this is the 14 carat. If the gold is 14 carat, it will be okay. But it's not 14, and it is 9. Okay, so those, for me, that's enough evidence that this dial, the Manhattan dial, its dots are 9 carat or more than 8 carat and less than 14 karat gold. And that's what I want to prove. But they're not the exact same dots, but they are the same diameter. The actual dot size is 0.8 millimeter. So I think because this has been 40 minutes long, I think that's long enough video for today. It seems to me from this test that, oh, yeah, very, very important last bit of this. What I wanted to show is that at the time that I believe that this dial was overpainted and had these gold dots inserted, which I believe was 1981 or the beginning of 1982, I wanted to show that Omega had the same dots in their possession, and that there's therefore a good possibility or a possibility that this was done by Omega in that time frame and not someone else. Now, obviously, what I'm doing doesn't prove anything, but it fits my hypothesis. And there's something that's very important about my hypothesis also that it fits, which is if someone, like I did, bought an Omega dial sometime after 1982 because they wanted to take the 9 karat gold dots off of it and put it onto this dial, they would have had a very hard time, and in particular, they wouldn't have found that the dots on an existing Omega dial still had their back the back end of it with the nipple. It would be gone because the dial would have been prepped for retail and sold, and it would have been burnished and flattened in the back. So these indices that have been pressed into this dial have not been burnished, and therefore they were in the hands of somebody who actually had access to those 9-karat gold indices, new, and that person that made this dial or put them into this dial didn't burnish them, and they were not reused from some other existing dial, which starts to confirm my hypothesis. It doesn't contradict my hypothesis. Somebody had access to 9-karat 0.8 millimeter diameter dots. They inserted it in here. They had kind of factory or new stock access because these pieces were not already burnished on the back. And that's it. I think that video was a success, except for I lost like a bunch of tiny 9-karat gold dots on my desk. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.